In the event of a threat of direct physical conflict, it is necessary to adequately assess the situation. An incorrect analysis of the situation will lead to the most tragic consequences. China will be stopped from a military invasion of Russia by international sanctions and the possibility of Russia using nuclear weapons. Above the water, we see only the civilized head of the dragon, but many surprises await us if we look at the body hidden underwater. International sanctions did not stop China from militarily seizing Tibet with a population of 10 million people. The East Turkestan Republic with a population of 25 million people could have become the 16th republic of the USSR if China had not seized it as well. They did not stop it from militarily seizing the Philippine shallows of Scarborough Shoal, rich in oil and fish. And also from preparing a military invasion of Taiwan with a population of 20 million people. China is also well prepared for a nuclear strike. It has many fortified bomb shelters, as well as pre-built empty cities for the resettlement of millions of people from the affected areas. For example, such areas as Tianduching, Binhai, Sichuan. Experts count up to 670 cities designed for different populations, from megacities to small urban-type settlements. They are united by one thing, the absence of residents. On the new maps of China, Vladivostok is marked as Haitianwan, Ussuriisk, Shuangchengzi, Blagoveshchensk, Halenpa, Sakhalin, Kadao. While Russia is looking for enemies in the west, China is building multi-lane roads along the borders of Russia. Heihe, Jian and Suibin, Jiayin. And also hundreds of concrete roads in Heilongjiang province for the transfer of heavy military equipment. China's mobilization resource is 200 billion people, and the amount of military equipment exceeds the amount of military equipment of all NATO countries combined. In recent years, China has seized large tracts of territory in other countries, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, the Pamir Mountains of Tajikistan, valleys in 5 districts of Nepal, the western part of Russia's Bolshoi Ussuri Island, as well as Hong Kong and Macau. China once attacked the USSR, but it was too weak and was decisively rebuffed. Everything changes with time. Let's assume that China continues its expansion and seizes the entire eastern part of Russia up to the Urals. What will happen to the inhabitants of the seized territories in this case? The inhabitants of Blagoveshchensk look at the rich city of Heihe, and some of them are not even against being controlled by their industrially developed neighbor. But first, we need to see what kind of attitude the authorities have towards the inhabitants that is hidden behind its external gloss. During the reign of Mao Zedong, a significant part of the population was kept in prisons and labor camps. The cruelty of the administration towards prisoners was unprecedented. Due to the backbreaking work and harsh conditions in Shaanxi, more than 300 people died every day in one mine. In Guangxi, half of the prisoners died in half a year. Of the 20,000 prisoners who worked in the oil fields in Yancheng, several thousand were executed. Numerous uprisings were harshly suppressed, and mass murder and torture in such cases were commonplace. In total, during the repression, according to various estimates, from 15 to 27 million people died or were killed. This does not include the peasants who worked to exhaustion in the fields and died of hunger. According to various estimates, from 40 to 80 million people. If China is accustomed to treating its own citizens like this, how will they treat conquered peoples? Although there are still people alive who remember those times, one can say that it was a long time ago. Do you think that China has become more humane in our time? On August 13, 2018, the UN considered the issue of concentration camps in Xinjiang. The official Chinese name is re-education camps. They contain Uyghurs and other non-native peoples. The camp in Dabanching, prisoners are held in 24 male and 32 female blocks. The total number of prisoners is from 11,000 to 130,000 people, making it the largest prison in the world. In total, the Chinese authorities hold more than 1 million people in re-education camps. International human rights organizations qualify them as Chinese analogues of Nazi concentration camps. People of non-native nationality are placed there without trial and indefinitely. Recently, the number of such camps has been growing rapidly. From 2011 to 2018, their area increased from 22 to 135 hectares. The far-sighted Chinese are building them not only for the Uyghurs, but also for millions of other nationalities, for the future. There are labor camps in Tibet too. Officially, they are called the Tibetan Autonomous Region Labor Transfer Program. In just half a year in 2010, 500,000 prisoners underwent forced vocational training there. Such an attitude towards representatives of a similar Asian race. It is scary to imagine what kind of attitude they will have towards completely different peoples. There are about 37 million people living beyond the Urals in Russia. Those who live on the border watch the skyscrapers and grand New Year's fireworks of rich Chinese cities. Many would not mind living in the conditions of a modern industrial civilization. But will the Chinese allow the assimilation of foreigners? Given the current attitude of the Chinese towards conquered peoples, it is not difficult to imagine their attitude towards the Russians in the event of expansion. Most of the population will be tortured and executed in the first few years. Millions will be sent to concentration camps. A few lucky ones will go through training camps and work 14 hours a day without days off for a cup of rice. Genocide and complete destruction of the local population seems to be the most likely scenario.